All right, so thanks for joining us today. This is Alex from the Penn Public Library, and I thought it was important for us to all take a moment to think about how we can spot internet scams. We're all living online even more than we already were since all this started, and we've gotten reports of locally and kind of nationally that these kinds of scams we'll be talking about, which are always very prevalent anyway, are nevertheless becoming even more so. So let's get into what to look for and how to handle them. So always popular and still so are phishing scams, phishing with a PH. These are scams designed for the designers of the scam are trying to get information from you or take control of your computer in some way. The troubling thing about these is that you might get emails, you might get text messages, you might get messages in social media. We tend to think of internet scams as being an email-based problem, but it is really broadening to those other modes of communication as well. So anywhere I say email, you can think that this applies also to social media and text messages as well. But the insidious thing about phishing scams is that a lot of times they are emails or social media messages or text messages that come from sources that you know and trust. And they try to tell you a story to get you to click a link or open an attachment. The link, the attachment, these are the means that the scammer has of gaining access in some way to your information. Simply opening up an email, opening up a message from the scammer doesn't do it. They need you to click on a link or open an attachment that's somewhere in that message. So they try to tell you a story that convinces you that it's the right thing to do. So they might say, hey, you have an account with us, you know, maybe it's Hulu, maybe it's Zoom, maybe it's your bank, maybe it's whatever. They'll have that, they've taken on that identity, and they're trying to say, hey, we've noticed some suspicious activity or an unexpected login attempt to your account with us. So we need you to pay attention to that. Or there's a problem with your account or your payment info. If it's a service that people pay for, Hulu, Netflix, things like that, where you have a monthly bill, you might get a phishing scam email telling you that your payment is not going through. So you need to click on this link. They might ask you to confirm some personal information. Hey, we don't have your address on file. We don't have your phone number. Please click this link or open up this attachment, and that'll let you send that important information to us. Or they'll tell you to click here to make a payment or open the attached invoice. They'll tell you that maybe you're eligible for a government refund or program, or maybe there's a coupon attached or some other way that you can get free stuff. So these are all the stories that they'll try to tell to get you to click that link or open that attachment. The tricky thing is sometimes you might get legitimate emails asking you for this kind of information, telling this kind of story. So you've got to be able to differentiate between the legitimate ones and the illegitimate ones. So here's an example. I know it's kind of hard to see. I took this screen grab the other day. And so you receive an email purporting to be from Netflix. It's got the Netflix logo up there. It's got relatively professional looking design. It's telling you your account is on hold. So it's a pretty convincing Netflix facsimile. If you got this in your inbox, you might be convinced that this is Netflix reaching out to tell you that there is a problem for you to solve. It's a reasonable sounding story. We pay Netflix monthly most of the time. You're on some kind of payment plan for Netflix. And we know that sometimes we have issues with our payment methods. Our cards get declined, or it's hit the expiration date, or something was entered in wrong at some point. So now it looks like Netflix has run into one of those problems, and it's reaching out to you to resolve it. But can you spot anything fishy about this? And I don't know if we have folks who are able to hear us here. Camille, are you still not able to hear me or not able to communicate with me if you're there? I see you're connected to audio now, Camille. Are you hearing me? I'm not hearing Camille, so I'm not sure if we're reaching each other, but glad you're here. Hopefully you can hear me even if you can't respond to me. But yeah, hopefully you can see what might be fishy about this. The first thing that jumps out at me is that it says, "Hi, dear." It is a very informal way of addressing a customer. Usually, if you have an account with an organization, a company like Netflix, dear obviously is not the, oh, hi Camille. Hopefully you can hear me. I still can't hear you. Okay, I see it. Good. Anyhow, so it wouldn't say hi dear, it would say hi Camille or hi Alex or hi Mr. Androsic or something like that. So let's just get, oops, trying to close out of here. I need to hide my thumbnail video here. There we go. Okay. So that's the first thing that would tell me that this is not legitimate. It would not, Netflix would not say, hi, dear. Netflix would say, hi, Alex, hi, Camille, hi, Bob, hi, Cindy, whatever. Another problem. So this isn't a problem depending on where you live in the world. There are lots of places where this is the correct spelling. You see down towards the bottom of that blurry picture, it says, if you need help, we're here. If you need it, visit the help center or contact us now. Netflix is a US-based company, and it does have, it communicates with people all over the world. But I'd be willing to bet that if you are an American customer receiving a correspondence from an American company, they would spell center in the American English way, C-E-N-T-E-R. This is the British English way, which is very common all over the world. But again, you're an American in America dealing with an American company. So this looks like perhaps a sign that this particular graphic has been put together by someone. They were close, they got it close, but they might not have been aware of that little difference in spelling, or they just weren't being careful, a little careless about their own native spelling slip through. So that looks to me like a sign of something fishy. And then it's really hard to see. You really can't see it at all, but right way at the bottom, it's got questions and then call. And then you can kind of tell that the digits aren't, there aren't the right number of digits. It starts with what looks like 0800. It's just an odd phone number for, again, an American-based company. So I don't know what would happen if you tried calling that number, but probably nothing good. So it's a very good facsimile of a Netflix message. It's some of these tricks that they run on us are relatively crude. This one is a sophisticated one. So if you just kind of glanced at this and you think, oh gosh, I got to get my Netflix on, let me fix this. You go ahead and you hit that big red update account now, and then they have you. You have done what they need to do to get a hold of some information from you, or at least to start to. Okay. So what should you do before accepting this alert as true? There are a couple of things you can do anytime, and you can think of this in terms of Netflix or any other accounts that are in your name. If it's something like they're telling you that your account isn't working, something's wrong with your money situation, think about transactions you have successfully completed recently. If you haven't had any trouble putting gas in the car, buying groceries down the road, or anything like that, your account, your payment information that's working at the grocery store and the gas station should still be working on Netflix. So if that's not lining up in your mind, then that's a sign that this is a problem. You can also go and check, navigate to your bank's page, log into your account, and make sure there aren't any problems. Sometimes stuff happens. your account gets flagged for a suspicious purchase or whatever. But there'd be information to let you know that that's happened. So rather than first jumping on that update account now button, do some double checking in your own way. Oh, I think I need a meal now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, hello. All right. I usually have people muted during my presentations anyway, and I just ask if there are any questions at any point. But since I got you audible now, do you have any questions up to this point?
No, I've heard of phishing before. My husband was into the computer business, so he advised me never to open, especially attachments, he told me.
Mm-hmm. That's good. All right. Well, you're into the game then.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right, let's put that on the next page. All right. So then there's this phenomenon that's been referred to as scareware. It seemed to have its heyday a number of years ago, but it's kind of coming back now. I've heard before the library, when I still had customers over there, they would tell me that they'd encountered this more than I had been hearing about up till recently. So scareware is things that jump up at you. There's a pop-up, it starts screaming at you in text form. Your computer is infected. Click here, call this number now to resolve this issue. And it's designed to scare you, make you think of something wrong. You've navigated to a website that has infected you with something, and now it is getting in your face, telling you, you've got to fix this, you've got to fix this.
Right.
So what this is trying to do, just like the phishing, it's trying to gain control of your credit card info or even your computer itself, to allow the folks on the other end of this scam to look at your files, send out emails under your name, or monitor your activity. Sometimes this could be like phase one in a phishing scam, because once the scammers get a hold of your email account and are able to send out emails under your name, then suddenly your friends and family are getting emails that look like they're coming from you saying, hey, click this link. Or, hey, So that's sort of one of the starting points. Or it could be an end in and of itself. They look at your files, they monitor your activity, they can tell every keystroke you make, so when they know you're on a website making a purchase, they can just they can peek over your shoulder, so to speak, and record your credit card number, your social security.
Oh, God.
So always good to watch out for this. So in order to spot this scam, it's important to know that if the warning seems so dire and insists that you act fast, it's probably a scam. Most computer warnings are not in very sensationalist language. They're not going to say, you're infected, your information is being downloaded by someone right now. Exclamation point. They don't communicate that way. Even when they're trying to let you know about something relatively serious, they're going to be screaming at you like that. So that's one sign. If they're coming up with hard to close pop-ups, so you get this, you're on a website, the message pops up, your computer's infected, and then you try to close it, and either it doesn't go away, or it immediately replaces itself with another message, or it's positioned in such a way that the link is kind of just off the screen. Or you can even drag it over to close it. Another one pops up over, another one. Real, regular, normal, healthy computer systems don't behave that way. So the hard to pop up are a sign of a scam.
And sometimes it automatically downloads. You ever notice that?
So here's the thing. It might tell you it's automatically downloading, but that was part of the scam, because by and large, a computer can't just start downloading something without you doing something to make it happen. So what it might do is say, I'm downloading, and maybe there's a cancel button. You hit the cancel button, and that's what actually starts the download.
Oh.
Or in this, as I put it, they might say, hey, I'm your antivirus software. We've detected this horrible thing, and right now we're scanning your computer right now.
Yeah.
And that's, sometimes your antivirus does start scanning automatically. So that could be something that tricks you into doing the right thing. But that's really just another sort of bell and whistle, a little special effect they're throwing at you to make it feel like something really important and scary is happening. And it's really
so then what do you recommend we do when we get those annoying pop-ups?
So So I'll get there in a second.
Okay.
But another thing to know is they could go either way in terms of like it might try to use a trusted name like Windows or Apple.
Uh-huh.
So it might say, this is Windows speaking to you, or this is your Apple computer. Please believe me. Or you might see company names you've never heard of before. This is, Pirate Chest antivirus, and we're here to save you. Like, oh, I've never heard of that. That sounds made up. So either way, you have to be very careful. But it's important to know that real companies like Windows and Apple will never communicate with you this way. They won't use sensationalistic tactics. So respond, good question. So you have to try to close that warning, but since the pop-ups themselves are part of the problem and they might not easily close, the best bet is to close your browser and not just the pop-up. So you set the whole thing, Chrome, Apple, Internet Explorer, Edge, whatever you're using, close out of the whole thing.
Close your browser.
It might be such a prevalent and insidious little pop-up that you can't even get it to do that. There's much happening, your computer can't handle it, and you can't get to the little X button. So you might have to resort to the Control-Alt-Delete method. Control-Alt-Delete brings the task manager, and then you can say, close my browser. And if that might not work either, you might have to actually force shut down your computer.
Yes.
And all that stuff. And then hopefully once you get turned back on, set back up, a lot of the times the problem will have resolved itself.
Yeah.
Obviously, don't enter your credit card information or click a download button. If there's a phone number involved, don't call the phone number. There are actual people who are, they've set up a phone number because some people will call and they'll talk to someone and they will say, yes, I am with Windows and I need your credit card number and I need all this information.
Wow.
They can really get a hold of your information then, of course. And it's always good when something like this has happened. You've turned off and turned your computer back on. Everything seems normal now, but good rule of thumb to update and run your security software, because then if any little viral package has been delivered into your computer, it will take care of it right away.
Oh, okay.
And I like to recommend that folks use a pop-up blocker. They're not really called a pop-up blocker anymore. Most browsers have a pop-up blocker installed already. It's part of the service. What you want to add to that is a service like, there's one called Ghostery. There's one called AdBlock Plus. These are really good at just shutting down all unwanted advertising. So you might even, it's a benefit beyond just the virus type thing, the scam type stuff. It'll actually stop you if you visit. I know one website I visit a lot is salon.com. I love the news and whatnot. It's got a lot of ads, both pop-up ads and ads right in the website itself. If I use Ghostery and AdBlock Plus, if I visit salon.com, it eliminates 90% of the ads. And that's important because it slows down loading times. With some websites, like every time an ad, if there's a video ad, it might switch from one to the other, and then it almost makes the whole page constantly reload, and it's really, really annoying. So at Ghostery, AdBlock Plus, they will stop that, but it will also be an extra layer of protection in case there are some of these scam pop-ups anywhere lurking around.
Okay.
And those are browser add-ons. I don't know what browser you use. Do you know off the top of your head?
Browser? I have Chrome.
Okay, good. So these are Chrome specific. I mean, I'm sure you can get them for other browsers, okay, but they are Chrome add-ons, extensions. So if you wanted to add these, you would go to the Chrome extension area. It's a section underneath the
extension
browser menu. There's a 3 dots up in the corner with all your menu options. You can search for the extensions menu item there, and you can search for things like Ghostery and AdBlock Plus.
So this is in addition to having your Norton?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay.
Yeah, because Norton isn't designed to block
okay.
But these two that I'm saying will block advertising.
Okay, I got it.
All right. Let's see. So ways to protect yourself. This might all be familiar to you, but it's not a bad idea to have it reviewed every now and then. So our emails themselves, I don't know what kind of email you use. I use Gmail, but most email companies filter out many, but not all of the scams from your inbox. So you might get a few every so often. If you check your junk mail folder, you'd see it's like 97% horrifying scam emails that it has successfully blocked from showing up in your inbox. So do a good job, just already not have to do too much else, just from keeping you from seeing and being potentially bamboozled by those types of scams.
Okay, yeah.
But just for the, the chance that it doesn't catch everything and you do get that really good looking Netflix scam that really does draw you in and it looks professional and just in a moment of weakness, you click on that link that you shouldn't. Obviously, you should have your computer set up with security software like you just mentioned, Norton. And they recommend having it set to update automatically. That's when every once in a while it'll say, hey, we have an update. We need to restart your computer. Let it do it. I know it's annoying. Sometimes you're in the middle of doing something. You don't want to interrupt, but it's for the best. Put it off once or twice if you really have to, but then let it do its thing. Same thing with your mobile phone, because like I said earlier, it's not just emails anymore. It's text messages, it's social media, and we get our email on our phones now too. So same thing that goes with your computer goes with your phone. In this case, you don't really have to get any external protection onto your phone because Androids and iPhones and all those have built-in security features. But you want to keep it updated regularly. So again, your phone will every once in a while say, hey, we've got this update to install. Do you want to do it now? Do you want to do it later? I'm really bad about this. I do tend to put mine off a lot. But the more often you allow your phone to update, the better protected it is against the newest threats. So and let it do its thing. So use multi-factor identification whenever possible. Have you heard this before, multi-factor identification?
No.
Okay. You might have encountered it without knowing that that's the fancy name for it. So multi-factor identification is like when you are creating or logging into an email, and instead of just entering your password, it also wants you to have a phone number.
Oh, yes. USAA does that all the time.
Yep. So you get that text message and it says, okay, here's your code, and now enter the code. That's multi-factor identification because that's the email service saying, well, somebody could have stolen your little black book of passwords, but they might not also have your phone. So if we know that the same person is entering the password and the code that we sent to the phone number that we know is theirs, then that's a little extra security. That means it's probably the person who should be accessing this account. And you might see this on banks. You might see this when accessing like your sensitive financial information. So it's increasingly common. Some are even like, if you're accessing something on your phone, they might say, okay, put in your password and then press your thumbprint and we'll get your thumbprint to who you are. That's a little more, up and coming, and not everybody can do that depending on their kind of phone. But these are the kinds of things that they're setting up to help further secure our information. So when possible, let that, choose that option. Sometimes they ask you if you want to set it up. Sometimes they just do it. So when you have the option, always good to do it.
Okay.
Backing your data up is always a good idea because stuff happens. And if your computer gets completely riddled with viruses and is no longer usable, you still want to be able to access your information, at least up to a point. So whether you do this with external hard drives, with thumb drives, or you back stuff up to the cloud, it's always a good idea to back things up and to do it regularly. I back up about once a month, and that has worked out okay for me, but I don't put a ton of new material on my computer every month. So if you are constantly creating new documents and important information and stuff, it be more often that you want to back stuff up.
Okay. Yeah, my husband does that.
Yeah, that's good. And again, just general rule of thumb that's always great. Think you accidentally interacted with a scam, something seems off about that link you just clicked or whatever, update your security software, run a scan, see what it says. Some more general tips. I know so many tips. Okay, heed your web browser's warning. So maybe this is something you've encountered. You might be navigating around the web and you type in you click a link or you type in a URL, and it says, instead of going to that website you were expecting, your browser will stop you and say like, whoa, do you really want to go there?
Oh, yeah.
This looks like this site doesn't meet our standards for what we think is safe. And this doesn't come up as a pop-up. It literally it goes to a little web page that says this to you, and then it says, yes, I want to proceed. No, I don't. This happened in Chrome because Chrome tends to be pretty on top of this kind of security.
Yeah. It does happen.
Yeah, and so that's a good sign that maybe that site that you want to go to is one you want to back away from. If it's a friend gave you the link and it just might not be something you're familiar with yet. Mm-hmm. This does occasionally impact sites that are perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But it just gives you that moment to reflect, is it really worth the risk for whatever this might be. Know and watch your website's URLs. Those are your web addresses. So if your bank was the very creatively named My Bank, the website might be something like www.mybank.com.
Okay.
And I misspelled it here. It should say www.mybank.com/ and then a whole bunch of numbers and letters and random stuff and then a dot something or other. That's probably not good, especially if you've been using your bank's website for years and you know what it's supposed to look like and suddenly it looks a little bit weird and different. It might be a sign that some nefarious actor has identified a bank to try to scam the patrons of, and has set up a fake link to that bank or a fake portal to that bank. And so this is why it's always a good idea. You've received an email saying your bank is telling you need to pay attention to something happening with your account. That may be true, but it might be a scam. So rather than hitting a link within your email, close your email, go to a new tab, a new browser window, and enter your bank info, your bank URL yourself. Because that link could be the way that somebody's trying to trick you. But if you're just entering www.mybank.com, then you're going to the right place.
Mm-hmm. And as a shopper, whenever I'm online, sometimes it redirects you to some other site instead of the site you wanted to. Mm-hmm. So you have to notice, oh, wait a minute, I didn't want Vitacost. I wanted some other place,
Right. Yep. Always just be vigilant of all that stuff. There you go. If you're on a new website where you're thinking like, oh, this is somebody recommended something to me, or I read about it somewhere and I want to be checking something out, maybe there's an account to create or something, check for contact info within the website. Any reputable company that wants to do business will have a section somewhere that lists, here's where our headquarters is, the phone number you can call, your email, all that stuff.
Right.
Scam companies are less likely to go to the trouble of setting stuff like that up.
So, that's a good idea, because one time I ordered a bag and it took so long. It's because it actually came from China.
Oh, yeah. Yep, got to double check. Sometimes that's okay, but, got to just be aware of where you're buying from.
Yeah.
And I just always like to reiterate this, that real computer companies don't reach out to help you. And I don't mean that you'll never hear from Microsoft or Apple or anything. They certainly might send you emails like you've recently bought a new Windows computer. Yeah. You ticked the little box when you did it, and they're sending you like, here's the latest deals and whatever. That's fine, but a real computer company isn't sitting at its headquarters monitoring my computer or your computer for trouble, and they're certainly not then calling you or texting you or sending you an email when it detects that trouble. As far as the computer companies are concerned, the manufacturers and the operating system developers and stuff, once the user has the device, it's their responsibility, and if they have a problem, they'll reach out to somebody for help. They're not sitting there saying, we've got to watch out for Alex's computer, not what they have the time or the inclination to do. So again, one of those messages, it's a Windows saying, oh my gosh, your computer's been compromised. Probably not. All right, getting into the social media stuff a little bit, just some ideas for being vigilant. Don't immediately accept friend requests from people you have already been friends with, because that's their account might have been goofed in some way. and pay attention to unusual communications. If you suddenly get a message from someone you haven't spoken to in 5 years and they're, you know, starting like very friendly, like, hey, how are you? As if they've talked to you every day for the past month. And yeah, why don't you click on this link? It's really cool. Probably not legit.
Right, exactly. That happens in Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And it can happen as like fake posts too. If a post seems characteristic for someone, it might not be characteristic of them. This doesn't apply to everybody, but if you are into buying and selling items online, there are safe ways to do it. There are safe ways to do it. Cleave to known and established marketplaces like eBay and Facebook Marketplace even is okay now. And there are all kinds of tips for how to behave and how to watch out for yourself within those places. But just as a general rule, you know, use sites like this. Craigslist a little bit shadier. Maybe stay away from the Craigslists. Generally speaking, it's not like it's a cesspool of crime, although it might be. I don't know. Always question free stuff. You know, you get a message saying, "Here's, you know, whatever. You click on this and you'll get 500 free ebooks or whatever." Yeah, probably. You know, there's probably a catch.
Yeah.
And obviously don't conduct wire transfers or send gift cards to unknown persons requesting them. This goes back to a very venerable old scam where you'll get an email from someone claiming to be the representative of an estate of someone who died in Moldavia or something, and you are their beneficiary, and please, just in order to hold your place in line, wire me $5,000 US.
Oh, brother.
So obviously these things are not good to even engage with. Although I did have a friend in high school who received some of these types of scams, and recognizing them for what they are, he engaged in years-long back and forth discussions with the person just to mess with their heads, and that was pretty hilarious. But I wouldn't recommend that everyone try that. Oops, and what does it say down here that I'm now covering up with? Okay. Avoid posting your email address openly on websites, because that's how scammers can crawl. They crawl websites looking for things that look like email addresses. They can say, okay, every email address is going to have that @ sign in the middle. It's going to be dot something. So they can search for things that meet that criteria, and they can just pull them off the internet left and right. And then that's their list of people to try sending that fake email to. And that's how it all gets going.
So what websites do you mean, Alex? I didn't understand.
Anywhere, like, okay, well, that's true. If you're signing up for an account for somewhere and it has a field for your email address, that's fine. But if you're on Facebook or a blog, or you're responding in a comment on an article, you don't want to be including your email address in things like that. The difference there is when you are creating a new account, you're hopefully in a secure website, and you can see there's like the green padlock up in the corner of or the HTTP.
Look for that,
Yeah, so that's fine, because that's like, okay, that's how you have to engage with creating something new. But you're just, you know, writing to a friend on a blog and you're saying like, I really want to keep talking to you, here's my email address, and then you put it. That's not good. That's where somebody could get that, because it's just openly posted, freely available to whoever has the means to collect that kind of information. All right, so that is that. There are ways, if you are someone attempts a scam on you, it's a good idea to report them. You can report phishing attempts at this email address here. If you get weird text messages, you can forward them to 7726, and you can report all scams to the FTC at that address. And there are so many more different types of scams than I was able to go through today. And just one that I saw that's coming up is like people trying to use the coronavirus situation to say, you know, send a text message to someone saying, in order to get your benefit, you have to do X, Y, and Z and click here. And that's all scam. That's all ridiculous. You can't do, that's not how it works. And there's even been an uptick in what sort of what they call blackmail scams. I saw a patron from the library told me that she was a victim of this, where it actually says, you know, you get an email from an unknown user and it says, we used your webcam to get salacious pictures of you and your dirty internet search history. And like, this person who's telling this to me is the last person in the world that would be, of course. But they say, you know, pay me X number,
Oh my God.
Bitcoin type thing, or in 3 days we'll release it, because we also have your email contact list. And none of it's true. It is true that hackers could potentially access people's webcams, so I do recommend people cover their webcam when not in use.
Right.
But these blackmail type scams are just people playing off people's fear of that happening, and just hoping if they send out 1,000 of these emails in a day, might be a few people who think like, oh gosh, that does sound like me.
Yeah.
And I'd better do what they say. But you let the 3 days pass and nothing happens. So but it's scary when it happens to you. You think like, even if they've got like the wrong person, it's like, well, what can they get? So it's all very scary.
Something else, when I got a phishing attempt that mentioned USAA, which is the bank my husband and I use, you know, he was a serviceman. I told the company USAA.
Yep.
I sent it to them. They have a certain department that likes to know that.
Yep, that's a good idea too. Probably most banks want to know that stuff.
Yeah.
So very nice. And I saw most like individual states have their own reporting too. So there might be a New York State department you can.
Oh, yeah, probably.
When I was researching, I guess the Texas one is very big because it keeps coming up when you search for stuff like this. They must be very on top of these things, but I'm sure the state has their own version.
Okay.
I do have further reading here. If you'd like me to, I could email this list to you so that you can go through them if you want to, or not. I post them on the library's Facebook page later too.
Oh, my picture is in the way, but you know what? I can't do it. Yeah, you better do it, because I don't think I could do it. Can I do it?
I'll post it on the Facebook page. How's that? You can see that later. Well, do you have any more questions or comments?
Questions or comments? Well, I like, I think it's Brittany who pointed out the little eye that's on, let's see, where was it? Somewhere on Facebook, I think. An article. I never noticed that cute little eye, and pressing that, you could tell if something is fake.
Yep. And so that's a whole other like category of like, you could consider it under the realm of scam. It is a way people are trying to, you know, manipulate public perceptions and things, which is all kind of under the same umbrella of people behaving poorly on the internet. But that goes under like information literacy, and that was a really great it's a great thing to know that you can check that. And there are debates to be had about the efficiency and the efficacy of the companies that are doing the ratings, but I think it's good that it's happening and that the conversation happens. So yeah, watch for the eye, see what it says. Yes.
Okay, I will. All right, thank you for spending time doing this.
Certainly. Thank you for attending. I will be posting it on the library's YouTube page, so folks who, if you want to refer to it later, or for any folks out there who could not attend, hopefully they will be able to see it.
All right.
All right.
Take care. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you. You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. So.